Joining me on the show, Terry Milinsky is the author of Blood for Blood, 50 Years of the Global Khalistani Project. We also have Ambassador Yogesh Gupta, former diplomat. I'm going to begin with you, Mr. Terry. The larger sense is that when Justin Trudeau spoke in Parliament, he did not really have any evidence, because India has been asking for evidence for the last few months, and India hasn't really got any. So the larger, then is there a sense that was more of a splash being said because there are domestic compulsions, or did Justin Trudeau feel the heat domestically?
Well, all of the above is true. He certainly did feel the heat domestically, but I think that he also believed that his intelligence people had produced something that persuaded him that there was some connection between the murder of Mr. Nijjar and somebody who had something to do, we don't know what, with the Indian government. But the problem has been that he has failed since then to produce any shred of evidence. The government claims, well, it's classified, and they say, well, we don't want to interfere with the investigation, prejudice any future trial. Well, I'm sorry, that ship has sailed, hasn't it? I mean, he's already announced the result of the investigation by booting out an Indian diplomat. He's already pointed the finger that the Indian government is guilty in this matter. So forget the niceties. He's already announced the results of the investigation in a sense. So I don't see that these excuses for not giving more detail, I don't think they stand up. And Trudeau, in any case, is hardly riding high in the polls. To put it mildly, he would lose the next election if it were held tomorrow, according to all of the polls. In fact,
you know, because NDTV had done a survey as well, and the results of our survey, and I'll ask the producer to put that on our television screens. The larger sense certainly was, Terry, that Justin Trudeau's statements in Parliament weren't really taken well by Canadians, because they realized that it was more of diversionary tactic. When the leader of opposition there, Pierre Poilievre, says that he would restore a professional relationship with India if his party comes to power, is that what people want?
Well, there's no question that there's a large section of the population, both in India and in Canada, who say, well, who's going to shed any tears for Mr. Nijjar, who turns out to have been a rather unsavory character, to say the least, and in Indian eyes, a terrorist. Canada didn't classify him as such, but nevertheless, it's clear that he was a member and a leader of the Khalistani Tiger Force, exactly as India had alleged in its claims made to Canada. And it's clear that the Canadian government is simply refusing to give us any detail, or the Indians any detail, as to what exactly is the connection that's supposed to exist between the Indian government and this murder. At least that is the official story. But the Indians say they're not getting any detail. However, the Canadian leaks, and of course there's a war of leaks, the Canadian leaks are no. At the official level, before the G20 summit meeting in New Delhi, the frosty meeting between Mr. Modi and Mr. Trudeau, before that, weeks before that, at the official level, Canada did indeed present some details to the Indians. The Indians didn't deny it, but didn't help with the investigation. And the implication is that there's some evidence that may be in Indian hands, for example, somebody that Canada would like to interview, a suspect or suspects that Canada would like to interview, that are not in Canadian jurisdiction, but Indian. So there's maybe more to it than just no details. There may be some.
Yes. Ambassador Yogesh, India has spoken about diplomatic parity, and Canada has withdrawn 41 diplomats from India. The charge that came in from Dr. S. Jaishankar was that there were interference in the internal affairs of India. That's a strong charge that is coming in. Would you say that India-Canadian ties are at an all-time low, and who do you blame for that?
Well, it's very clear that the relationship has been affected because the Prime Minister of Canada, Mr. Trudeau, he chose to blame India before, presenting any hard evidence. And not only that, he is even declared one of Indian diplomats in Canada as he asked us to withdraw one of our diplomats. So, you don't do such things until and unless you have some strong evidence with you, unless you can tell the other government and you can tell the international community that, look, here's the evidence of the other country's involvement. But we have been waiting for months, and we haven't been given any evidence. And we have assured Canada at the level of the foreign minister and other levels that we are ready to cooperate, we are ready to help Canada, we are ready to join in their investigation. So in case they want to sort of seek any help from us, we have shown our readiness.
Why do you think
so
Justin
far,
Trudeau made that announcement on the floor of the House and did not really follow the diplomatic protocol?
Yeah, exactly. So we are, Canadian charges or Justice Trudeau's charges are just hanging in the air. And without any evidence, he has gone ahead and taken such strong action, of expelling one of our diplomats from Canada. And not only that, most worrisome thing is that Indian diplomats in Canada, they are unable to function properly because they are being blackmailed, they are being threatened by these separatist elements. And in violation of Canada's obligations under the Vienna Convention, they have failed to provide the required security to our diplomats, So we have a bizarre situation that while our missions in Canada are unable to function, here is Canada, which was operating with a large, oversized mission, in India. So they are not providing security to a small Indian, to a complement of small Indian diplomats in Canada and wanted to maintain a large, oversized mission in India. So this is not something, which is acceptable under the circumstances. That they are interfering in our domestic affairs, they are indulging in such practices. So that is the bane of the problem.
Okay. Final word to you, Mr. Terry. Of course, we are seeing here in the realm of domestic politics also in the run-up to 2025, here is Justin Trudeau's political opponent saying that his pitch is that here is a prime minister who's become laughing stock in India because of the the Indian population which is there in Canada, the impact that Indians have in Canada's domestic politics, and he says that he would ensure that there is professional equation with India if he actually wins the elections. Will that really be a talking point going ahead?
Well, it's no doubt that that you will hear more along the same lines from Mr. Poilievre during the next election campaign. He's going to cash in on Trudeau's embarrassment over this affair, although that embarrassment may not be permanent. What we have is a sort of a stalemate where he's refusing to reveal what his evidence is. That puts him in a weak position. But at the same time, we have to remember that the Indians know what his evidence is. I mean, he has met with Mr. Modi. And Mr. Modi, I don't think any Indian would expect that Mr. Modi in that meeting with Trudeau would have sat there like a potted plant and asked no questions about what are you saying? What is your evidence? Where is it? Let's hear it.
Okay.
And so he knows whatever it is that Trudeau knows, and he is in a position, if he wished to, he could step up and say, all right, I know why Trudeau won't reveal the evidence, is because it's rubbish. And here's why it's rubbish. And lay it all out. He could blow Mr. Trudeau out of the water if he wanted to, but he's not done that. I wonder why. I'd like to know why.
All right, Ambassador Yogesh Gupta and Terry Milinsky, thank you so much for joining us.